Right. So, in today's video, we are going to discuss about the usage of BDD for any kind of business analyst roles, especially when we are working on role of a business analyst in the organization. Because BDD, which stands for behavioral driven development, because there are different development driven approaches which normally we use. Something like BDD, FTD, MDD, all that. There are different development approaches we have. One is about FDD, which stands for feature driven development. What are the required features that are needed for us to implement? Based on that, application development will be taken place. That's what generally we call it as FDD, feature driven development. Next is model driven development, using different models, how they're based on the business model that are required for us to implement. Based on that, whatever the development we do is comes under BDD. Next, we have even FDD also, like feature driven developments. At the same time, one more developmental approach is called BDD, one of the core and important business development driven approach we follow, especially when we are trying to understand the role of a business analyst. Now and then it is becoming important because understanding the behavior of the system, understanding the behavior of the requirements are one of the key and important elements. In this regard, so first we need to understand what BDD is all about, because as in when I mentioned you, BDD is a developmental approach where software teams wants to work close to close the gaps between business people and technical people, because what business analyst or what business people requires and what technical people understands may have some variations. So to reduce the gap between these two, behavioral driven development approach is something which is useful. This is majorly useful to encourage collaboration across different roles to build shared understanding of the problem that is to be resolved. Next, we'll be working in rapid small iterations and all, which will be used to increase feedback and as well as the flow of the value. Next, it produces the system documentation, which majorly automatically checks against the system behavior. Because understanding the behavior of the system is one of the key and important aspect, one to be noticed, one to be known with. So these are all the usefulness we can see when it comes to the behavioral driven development is concerned. Now, in what way it is required for a business analyst? Because business analysts are the people, who acts as a liaison between business and technical communities. So wherein here we need to document whatever the acceptance testing we have when we are writing any user stories, acceptance criteria we write. So documenting whatever the acceptance testing in a language where developers and as well as QA team can understand from the business perspective. For that reason, BA is needed BDD approach. Next, there is a common language which normally describes the acceptance testing. For that, generally understanding the behavior is what something BDD will be used for. It also encourages the collaboration and as well as creating a shared understanding of the testing, the understanding of the tests which are being run while we are performing any kind of testing or something. Last but not least, whoever the delivery teams we have, which is to be refined the requirements using detailed examples of system behavior, wherein to reach the shared understanding of the specifications. For that, even this BDD is something which normally we use. So these are the advantages required by a BA, so that to develop a communication, an effective communication expectation, what customer expects, what we can deliver. To have that communication between these two, this business driven development approach is required for a BA, apart from feature driven development, model driven development, all that. So this is also one of the business driven development is one of the core effective one, because from the testing perspective, this will be used effectively more. Now, how the BDD is being used using Gherkin model, because when you are trying to write down the user stories, there are different formats we use. How to write those formats, and those formats, based on the formats, how the acceptance criteria to be written. So for that, being a BA now and then, we are using two different formats. One is a generalized format of user story while we are writing, which is known to everyone, which generally we write, right? So the second one about the Gherkin approach. The Gherkin approach is something now and then used by the organizations effectively. How this can be written, right? So how to understand the behavior of the system and how this can be written. This is what generally Zirkin is all about. So this uh, one, as far as my training is concerned in business analysis, I'm taking a workshop kind of stuff, because now and then requiring what are the different ways of writing user stories and acceptance criterias is becoming a required need for any business analyst profiles, irrespective of the technology, the domain they have. So that I am conducting a workshop on it, an exclusive workshop on BDD for business analyst, right? So behavioral driven development for business analyst. So there I am going to explain the complete picture over the developmental approaches. Either it can be BDD, it can be FDD, MDD, all that. And finally, TDD also, right? So test driven development, that I'm going to explain. But my major focus is on the behavioral driven development from the business analyst perspective, understanding about the developmental approaches. I have taken some case study kind of an example so that you guys will understand better by implementing regular user story template models followed by Gherkin also. So that's what something which I'm conducting as a workshop. There I'll be explaining in detail about how this can be written and how this can be implemented. Thank you.